Hey indie fans, Tom here and welcome to another indie review, and today we are going to be looking at the Turing Test, which has been published by the Square Enix collective. Now we all know what the Turing Test is by this point. A test designed to see if an AI can think and act like a human, which is pretty crazy. So you'd imagine a game named after this same concept would be certainly something unique. Well, the Turing Test aims to prove that this is the case, and to give it the credit it deserves, it does a fairly good job of taking this idea and spinning it into an entertaining and thought-provoking game, all complete with a brilliantly wicked ending. No spoilers though, you definitely will want to experience that for yourself. I'm a big fan of both sci-fi and science fantasy, so the Turing Test caught my eye when I initially saw its reveal for the Switch. You are placed into the shoes of Ava Turing, an engineer who is cryogenically unfrozen, to investigate some strange occurrences on the moon of Europa. The ground crew are missing, and you are plunged to the moon's cold surface to enter a labyrinth and find out why. The Turing Test does a brilliant job of not only setting up this mysterious and dangerous atmosphere, but maintaining it throughout the 5 to 6 hour playtime. Each puzzle you complete rewards you with small interactions between Ava and T.O.M, the AI program, who acts as your guide and companion throughout the adventure.
I've started to collate information from my local instance. It seems the crew intentionally cut communication with the satellite.
Why?
Yes, we had a disagreement.
Through these small snippets of conversation, the narrative unwinds around you as you come to terms with what happened to the missing crew, as well as minor discussion of larger concepts such as humanity and morality. The Turing Test was able to keep me gripped right until the end, and it left me asking many questions, not just about the game, but the issues it raises and human nature itself. It concludes with a choice of 2 endings which are as grey as they come. No spoilers though, but I was definitely shocked, and I sat in silence as the credits rolled in front of me. For the ending that the Turing Test gives players isn't bombastic or full of explosions. You make one of 2 very difficult choices, and then the screen fades to black, the credits roll, and that's it. Now you may wonder why I discussed the ending of the game at the start of the review. It's an odd choice for sure. I guess I think it is worth discussing the narrative straight away, because even though I enjoyed the gameplay, the story will stay with me. The choice I made in the end told me something about myself which I didn't necessarily expect to learn, and when a game does that, I find myself very impressed. When it isn't making you question the ways of life and the nature of computer sentience, the Turing Test has some game going on too, funnily enough. The immediate comparison people make, which is definitely a lazy one, is to the Portal series, and I do fully understand why, but the Turing Test stands alone as a great game, so I dislike this idea. After you descend into the surface of Europa, you are given the Energy Manipulation Tool, or the EMT, which acts as your window into all of the game's puzzles going forward. Now don't get me wrong, I definitely felt a sense of familiarity after a couple of rooms. 99% of the puzzles you take part in revolve around opening doors, transferring energy, although these energy balls that you do work with are used in some really clever ways, as well as moving power cubes to power various devices. Plus you'll be working through movable bridges, platforms to elevate, and so on and so forth. Mechanically, the Turing Test doesn't add much new to the genre, although it doesn't do it in a bad way either. It kind of feels like painting an old car and giving it a brand new engine. It has the same foundations and it feels the same to drive, but at the same time it has that fresh enough aspect to it that makes it good enough to get by. The difficulty curve in the puzzles is incredibly gentle, too much in fact, and this is the biggest issue I had by the time I finished the Turing Test. I wasn't prepared for the epilogue, in part because I didn't feel it was the end of the potential that the game had. By the time you've completed around a quarter of the puzzles, you'll have understood the majority of the mechanics the game throws at you. For example, the core mechanics of shooting and extracting energy, carrying power cubes, and sprinting are all quickly acquired within the first 10 levels. At which point the only mechanics you learn, which are crucial to success after this point, are how the cameras work and being able to control robots. There were occasions at which point I was definitely stumped, but no puzzles took me longer than around 10 minutes, even at the end of the game, which is definitely disappointing, especially because of how fun they are to work out. The Turing Test is a great example of a game which definitely doesn't overstay its welcome, but it left me wanting maybe 10 or 15 more levels which scaled up the difficulty considerably. Don't let this detract from the puzzles themselves though, because they definitely have that satisfactory moment of, aha, that is so crucial to this style of game, just that they often came too quick in my opinion. I mentioned the use of cameras and robots in puzzles later on in the game. Now the narrative reason you're able to use these new abilities is an amazing twist, so again I won't spoil it. But it definitely led to a greater variety in puzzle mechanics, which was much needed. However, I again felt that this isn't pushed enough. A couple of puzzles which took me a fair while to complete were surrounded by rather basic companions, and it's a massive letdown. A couple more of these mechanics, and really pushing where they could go, would have been brilliant and really pushed this game forward. I definitely come across as rather negative here, but that isn't to say I think the Turing Test is a bad puzzle game. In fact, it is one of my most enjoyable experiences I've had in the genre in the past couple of years. My entire 6 hours was incredibly fun. I finished it in 2 sittings purely because I struggled to put it down. It is a good game no doubt, just not a great one. The gameplay is incredibly solid, it just doesn't expand as much as it could. The Turing Test is undoubtedly one of the best looking games on the Switch, especially for an indie game. It is visually stunning, particularly when you get to head into the outdoor environments of Europa. The fidelity too on textures is incredibly impressive, and the overall package is a great showcase for the ability of the Switch to handle games with lifelike visuals. All of this is complete with near flawless performance too. Up until the last act of the game, I encountered no, and I mean none at all, performance issues. Until I hit the last chapter, at which point I was met with constant issues for the rest of the game, around another 45 minutes, and I have no explanation for this. It does seem similar to other games though on the Switch, whereupon resetting your Switch unit makes them disappear. It was a bizarre ending to an otherwise flawless experience though. The audio design too is rather impressive. A simple, non-intrusive soundtrack accompanies you as you play through the Turing Test, and it further pushes the brilliant atmosphere of the game. Tom, your AI companion, isn't as iconic as GLaDOS for sure, but his assertive and increasingly manipulative wisdom acts as a fantastic narrative tool, and by the end, it makes the choice you are given even harder.
I had to stop the ground crew leaving this planet. I think you would do the same. Would you kill a few to save all of humanity? Or would you damn all of humanity to save a few?
There's a difference between murdering someone and leaving them to die.
As an entire experience, the Turing Test is a really solid game, and one people who like this style of game will definitely enjoy. It is let down most by the lack of true difficulty, but even so, it will leave your head scratching enough to be a worthy investment of both your time and money. Luckily, the brilliant narration and story make up somewhat for the lack of edge in puzzles, and that ending will leave you genuinely shocked and reeling from what you just did, whichever decision you make. Visually, it is seriously impressive, and the overall atmosphere is perfect for a late night session. Plug in your headphones, turn off the lights, and jump into the world of the Turing Test. This quest into finding out the fate of your fellow crew members will grip you until the very end, and likely leaving you thinking about it for days after. For this reason, we're going to award the Turing Test with an Indie Nexus full heart. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope too it was really informative. This is a really decent game, and I really recommend it to puzzle fans. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like. Let us know down in the comments if you're going to be picking this one up and what other games you're looking at in February. Be sure to check out our list of February recommendations and stick around for more indie content coming pretty consistently right now. Thank you so much for checking out this video. My name is Tom. Peace out.